The relentless tick-tock of the grandfather clock echoed through the stifling silence of the Sterling Manor study. Its golden pendulum swung back and forth, a cruel reminder of how precious moments were slipping away for Isabella Vance. She sat at the expansive mahogany table, her quivering fingers tracing the edges of the crisp parchment in front of her. Her chest tightened as she blinked back the tears, her vision blurring. "Sign it." The voice was chilling, sharp as shattered glass. Across from her sat Eleanor Sterling, the matriarch of the formidable Sterling family. The older woman's meticulously coiffed silver hair and immaculate ebony gown gave her an aura of unassailable authority. Pearls gleamed at her throat, but there was no kindness in her gaze, only contempt. "You've disgraced this family long enough," Eleanor said, her voice calm yet laced with venom. "It's time you depart quietly with whatever dignity you still possess." Isabella's heart hammered so loudly she could barely hear. 2 years ago, Isabella had been swept off her feet by Marcus Sterling, the charming, ambitious heir to the Sterling fortune. He'd been different then, warm, affectionate, rebellious enough to defy his family's snobbery. Or so she believed. When Marcus brought Isabella, a woman of modest origins, into the Sterling mansion for the first time, she felt the sting of Eleanor's frosty smile. "A woman like you could never comprehend our world," Eleanor had told her privately that night. But Isabella had tried. She endured the whispers at elite gatherings, the patronizing remarks about her appearance, her accent, her lack of refinement. She loved Marcus enough to stay until now. "Marcus." Isabella's voice cracked as she turned to her husband, hoping, pleading for some sign of the man she married. He stood near the tall window, his hands in his pockets, his bespoke suit impeccable. But his face was cold, his jaw set hard. "Don't look at me like that, Isabella," he said sharply. "You've made this more difficult than necessary." Her breath caught in her throat. "More difficult? I sacrificed everything for you. My friends, my aspirations, my family. I thought we were building a future together." Marcus scoffed. "A future together, or a future you clung to because you thought marrying me would solve all your troubles?" The words hit like a harsh blow. Eleanor leaned forward, her voice low and cutting. "You were never suitable for him, Isabella. You don't belong in this family, in this society. Sign the papers and we'll ensure you're compensated sufficiently to start anew somewhere far from here." Isabella stared down at the pen in her hand. Her mind raced. "If I sign this, I lose everything. The man I adore, the future I envisioned, but if I don't?" She looked up at Marcus one last time. "Do you truly desire this?" His eyes hardened. "You're not the woman I thought you were. Perhaps my mother was right all along." Isabella's tears fell freely now, leaving dark stains on her pale blouse. Her hands shook violently as she picked up the pen. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in. "They want to erase me as if I were nothing, as if I never mattered." But deep down, a quiet voice whispered, "You'll show them one day." With a final breath, she signed her name. Eleanor smiled faintly, satisfied. "Good girl. Now, gather your belongings. Someone will escort you out." Isabella stood slowly, her knees weak. Her eyes lingered on Marcus, silently begging him to stop her, to say something, anything. But he turned away. That was the last thing she saw before leaving the Sterling estate. The man she loved staring out the window, indifferent to her anguish. What they didn't know, as Isabella stepped into the cold night air, clutching her coat around her, was that her quiet strength stemmed from more than just her affection for Marcus. It came from a heritage of resilience, and soon she would uncover a secret about her own family. A secret that would upend the Sterling's world. 2 years. That's how long it had been since Isabella walked out of the Sterling estate, clutching her coat around her trembling frame, her signature still wet on the divorce papers that shattered her world. 2 years since Eleanor Sterling smirked across a polished mahogany table and told her she wasn't good enough. 2 years since Marcus, her husband, the man she once believed loved her, turned his back on her. His cold indifference cutting deeper than any words. But the woman approaching the estate gates today wasn't the same Isabella. This Isabella didn't flinch. She didn't bow her head. She didn't plead for love or acceptance. This Isabella had rebuilt herself anew, and she wasn't here to beg. The Sterling family had seen better days. Their investments had crumbled under a series of unwise deals. The once glorious Sterling name, synonymous with wealth and power, was now whispered in boardrooms as a cautionary tale. Marcus sat at the head of the conference table, his suit impeccable, but his eyes hollow. Eleanor sat beside him, her pearls as flawless as ever, though her grip on her teacup was tight. "We need this acquisition," Eleanor said, her voice sharp with urgency. If Vance Holdings doesn't sign off on this partnership, the Sterling legacy is finished. Marcus exhaled slowly. They'll come. They have to. The double doors opened. A hush fell over the room as a woman stepped inside, her heels clicking against the marble floor. It was Isabella, but not the Isabella they remembered. Gone was the trembling, tearful young woman in a wrinkled blouse. This Isabella wore a tailored cream suit that hugged her frame like armor. Her natural hair was styled in an elegant updo, and diamond studs glinted in her ears. She carried herself with the effortless grace of someone who commanded every room she walked into. Behind her strode a tall man with silver hair and a presence that seemed to bend the air around him. His bespoke suit whispered affluence in every stitch. Eleanor's eyes widened. Arthur Vance. The man gave her a polite but distant nod. Good afternoon, Mrs. Sterling. Marcus's face went pale. You're her father? Yes, Arthur said calmly. I'm Isabella's father. I thought it was time we had a conversation. Eleanor's voice sharpened. Why didn't you reveal yourself sooner? Why let your daughter marry into this family without telling us who you were? Isabella stepped forward, her voice even. Because I wanted to be loved for who I was, not for what I possessed. But instead of accepting me, you judged me, mocked me, drove me out. Her eyes locked on Marcus, who couldn't meet her gaze. And you, she said softly, her voice trembling, not with weakness, but with restrained fury. You stood there and let them humiliate me. You believed I was nothing without you. But the truth is, you were nothing without me. Marcus flinched. Arthur pulled out a folder and placed it on the table. I'm buying out your company's debt. Effective immediately. Vance Holdings owns controlling interest in Sterling Industries. Eleanor's mouth fell open. You can't. Oh, I can, Arthur interrupted smoothly. And I will. But don't worry. We'll keep you on as advisors. Isabella tilted her head slightly, her calm gaze sweeping over her ex-mother-in-law and ex-husband. Consider it my way of ensuring no one else suffers the way I did here. As the reality sank in, Marcus stood abruptly. Isabella, wait. I was wrong. I let my mother influence me. I never stopped loving you. Isabella's lips curved into a faint, almost sorrowful smile. Love isn't silent when the world is tearing you apart, Marcus. Love doesn't stand by and watch you drown. His voice cracked. Please, give me another chance. Isabella shook her head. I gave you all the chances in the world, and you taught me that sometimes love isn't enough. Eleanor's voice was a harsh whisper now. You think you're better than us because of your father's money? Isabella met her gaze with unflinching calm. No. I'm better because I learned to value people. Not their wealth, not their status, but their hearts. Something you never understood. Isabella turned to leave, her heels clicking against the floor like the closing of a chapter. As she reached the door, she paused and looked back one last time. Thank you, she said softly. Marcus frowned. For what? For teaching me how strong I really am. That evening, Isabella sat on the balcony of her father's estate overlooking the city skyline. Her phone buzzed. It was an email from the board of Vance Holdings. Congratulations, Isabella Vance. As of today, you are officially CEO. She smiled, her tears this time warm and proud. Isabella had lost everything once, but she'd rebuilt herself. Not as a Sterling, not as someone's wife, but as her own woman. And she would never let anyone take that from her again.